Hello friends, welcome to this video. In this video, we will learn about CloudWatch Log agents. In this video, we will understand what is CloudWatch Log agent. We will see the configuration files associated with the agent. Then we will see the agent installation methods, and then we will have a lab or a demo. So first, let's understand what is a CloudWatch Log agent. CloudWatch Log Agent provides an automated way to send system log data to CloudWatch Logs from EC2 instances. So let's understand this first. So on your EC2, you may be having several log files generated by your operating system, as well as there are several applications which are running on your EC2 are generating the log files. And if you want to see these log files, you have to log into each of these EC2s and check those log files. So if there are only couple of EC2s, that's fine. The system engineer can log in and check those log files. But how about if you have hundreds of the EC2s? It's not possible, right? For every to check the every log, you cannot log into that particular EC2 and then check the logs, right? So CloudWatch Logs agent helps you to overcome this particular challenge. So in this particular diagram, as you can see, I have three EC2s. Each EC2 will be installed with a CloudWatch agent. And the work of this CloudWatch agent is it collects the logs, the configured logs from this particular EC2 and sends to CloudWatch. So now this CloudWatch will have a logs, important logs from EC2, this EC2, this EC2 as well as this EC2, and this particular agent is configurable, and as you will see in this demo as well, wherein you can specify what kind of log you really want to collect from these EC2s. You're probably having a business critical application on this and you want to collect a set of log files from this EC2, you want to collect a different set of log files from this EC2 and a different set of log files from this EC2. So all these are possible with the configuration of these agents. Now, what is the advantage of sending these logs to CloudWatch? The one is, of course, a consolidation. In a single view, you can see the log from different systems and the different EC2s. Right? You can consolidate all the logs in one place. And with the consolidation, you can also, or with this particular log files, you can also create an alarm. For example, if there is an error in one of the log file, I want to generate an alarm. You can do that. Or if there are more number of similar logs, those have been generated from an EC2, then generate an alarm. You can do that. You can also do the notifications using an AWS SNS service. So once the alarm is generated or the EC2 has a specific log that has been identified as an error, you want to notify certain set of people in your organization, so you can do that. You can also do the reporting, how many logs have been generated, and you can create a dashboard of it. So those are the advantages that you will get by sending the logs from each of these EC2s to the CloudWatch, and this is the main purpose of having a CloudWatch Logs agent. In terms of the log agent, so it is an agent based solution. You have to install an agent, and how to install that agent we will see it in the next slide. But once the agent is installed, you have to configure two files. The first file is called as an AWS logs.conf, which logs to be captured. This defines which logs to be captured. As we said that you probably want to capture only the system logs from one of the EC2. You want to capture the Apache logs from another EC2. You want to capture maybe database related logs from another EC2. So you have to define what logs to be captured from each of these EC2. That's what you do with the configuration of AWS logs.conf. And then where you want to send the collected logs, you want to send it to a specific region. Okay, that region you will specify in the AWS CLI conf file, and both these files are available in /etc/AWS logs directory, and this directory will be created only when your agent installation is successful. Okay, so either you have an etc AWS logs, or in certain cases the log files are available, or these configurations files are available in /var slash AWS log slash etc and slash. Okay, so depending on the operating system or depending on the method of installing the agent, either these files are stored here or stored here. Okay, so you can cross check probably here, and then probably you will find these files, and you can go ahead and do the configurations of these particular files. Yeah, and these configuration files are pretty simple, and you'll be able to go through and make yourself understand with these configuration files. So let's take a sample configuration file of this AWS logs.conf, which defines what logs to be collected from that particular EC2, right? So it has two sections. One is called as a general section, and one is called as a section which helps you to identify what logs you are collecting. Okay, so in case of general, you will define what is a state file, what is the state of this particular agent, will specify in the general, and it's only a one file, and there is a var lib AWS logs agent state file which keeps monitoring that particular state of the logs. So it does that. Okay, and the next section that you have is the actual log file that you want to collect, and here is a name that I would like to give. For example, I want to collect the log files called as messages from the Linux system, which is available in log and var, and I will create a section for that saying that this is it. And then date time format. So this is very important. You have to specify how this particular logs, when it entered into the CloudWatch, how format to be specified with that. Okay, so this is the default one that it gives, and here B stands for, it is the month of the calendar month of the year in terms of the three letters. Like if it is a January, it gives JAN, and if it is February, it will give FEB. Then D stands for the day of the month. It will give 01, 02 depending on the dates, and then hours, minutes and seconds. So this is the date format that it follows to for every log that it puts into the CloudWatch. Yeah, then which file you want to monitor, and if there is any change, it sends to the CloudWatch. So it monitors and collects the log from var log messages. So in this particular configuration file, we want to collect the, or we want to send these log files to the CloudWatch. So we have to specify which log file to be monitored. Then log stream name. Log stream name is CloudWatch maintains, how the CloudWatch maintains this logs file is with its subfolders, right? And what is the name of that particular subfolder that you want to give is basically instance ID. I mean, you really want to identify the logs of particular instance by its instance ID, because instance IDs are unique across your EC2s, right? So you want to specify that. Then there is something called as an initial position. Initial position is after reading these messages, when you want to start logging or collecting those log files and sending it to the CloudWatch. Is it from the start of the file, or is it after the installation of this particular agent? You probably already have this EC2 up and running since last a month, and you have decided now to install this log agent. So do you still want to collect the logs which have been generated before this agent installation, or you want to start collecting after this installation? Is the start of the file is from the first day, whatever is written on the messages, from their start of the file, it collects and sends it to the CloudWatch. Then log group name. Within this instance ID, it also has a log group name. Why this log group is required? You may be collecting multiple logs from the same instance. For example, there is a var log messages. I also want to collect maybe m.log, which is available in /var. I would like to collect /var/httpd error.log from Apache. So all those are different log groups. Now when I go to in the CloudWatch, when I go to this particular instance ID, it will display all the groups, the log messages groups, then httpd error logs, and then it will also display m. So I can go to the specific folder and I can check the similar related logs in that, and that's the reason why you have these log group names. So you can have multiple like this. So for each of the different logs, you can have multiple sections like this. AWS CLI configuration. So this will just have the region where you want to send your log files. So currently we are sending the log file to ap-south-1. Then it also has a cron file. How does EC2 ensures that this AWS log agent is running is through its cron file, and there is a etc cron.d and AWS log file, AWS logs cron file that has been generated, which ensures that this log file, unless and until manually shut, it should be continuously running. The work of that is that. Then there is a service name which you can start and stop using AWS logs. So if it is a Amazon Linux or CentOS, you can use the service command, or if it is a Ubuntu, you can use systemctl command to start and stop this particular service. So this is the name of the service to check whether the this particular service is running or not running. Then agent installation. So the entire activity here is in terms of the agent itself, right? Agent itself does a lot of activity. So you have to install the agent. By default, on any of the operating system, this agent is not installed. So it is an optional. So if you really want this agent to be installed on EC2, you have to do a installation activities yourself. Then there are three ways of installing the agent. The one way is on a running EC2 instance using an RPM module. So I explained earlier, like there could be a scenario where you already have your EC2s running, up and running since last a month, and your management has decided to install the agent now. So you can do that, and there is a RPM version of the agent which is available. You can go ahead and install that RPM module using an yum command on the on your Amazon or CentOS based Linux machines. If it is a Ubuntu based, then probably you can use apt-get and you can use that. The second way of installation of the agent is running an EC2 by downloading a Python package. So the Python package is available for you to freely download. It is not a chargeable service. So you can download that. I will specify the path as well from where to download. So you can download that particular Python package and you can install by executing the Python command. Okay, you can download and you can put it. So this is also one of the other way of installing the agent. The third way is what you can do. These two initial two methodologies are for the existing running EC2s. What if I want to make an EC2 as when it is launching, you want to make this agent installation part of it, is the third method. So during the installation itself, using the user script, you can put a code that helps you to launch or install this agent during the launch of an EC2 itself. Maybe you may be having an auto scaling group, and as part of the auto scaling group, whenever the EC2s are launching, you want to make this agent part of it. So you can do that by using the third methodology. Now these are the three different ways, and we will see the demo of each one of them as part of this particular video. Now the very important thing that is required for you to install the agent is an IAM role or an IAM programmatic access. Now if I just refer back to this particular diagram. Okay, so you have different EC2s and each EC2 has its agents, and these EC2 has to write to CloudWatch, right? And to have a permission for this EC2 to write to CloudWatch, either you require an AWS programmatic access credentials or access keys and the secret keys, or you want an IAM role to be attached to this EC2 so that it can go and write onto this CloudWatch, right? And this is what we are talking as part of the prerequisite here. Okay, now we will go ahead and do a lab now, and I will demonstrate to you all the three options that you have for three ways of installing the agent. So I'll go back to my AWS, and in the AWS I already have two EC2s running. Both are Amazon Linux, and both as of now doesn't have the agent installed. So in the first demo, what we will do, we will try to do this using an RPM module. Okay, to do an RPM module, what I said, the first one is a prerequisite, right? So let's create an IAM role. Let's not work with IAM programmatic access credentials, because that is not a recommended way. Whenever you are working between your services, it's always recommended that you use an IAM role. So let's create an IAM role for that. Okay. So how do we create an IAM role? So I'll open up another tab. And I'll go to services. I'll go to IAM. So I'll click on roles and I'll say create role. And then it'll ask from which use case, choose an EC2, say next permissions. So in the permission, let's create a custom policy. So we can say create policy and let's say JSON. Okay. So basically what we want is we want to have a permission to write the logs into a CloudWatch, right? So I already have the JSON script in my clipboard. So I'll just paste that and I'll just let me explain that. So there's a version, there's a statement, effect is allow, and if you look at the actions, there are 4 actions that we are giving. The first action is create a log group, because this EC2 agent need to create a log group based on what you have specified in the configuration file. It need to have a permission to create log group. Then it need to create a log stream as well. Log stream is the set of logs. Then it need to put log events, because whenever it reads, whenever it senses the new logs from that particular file, it need to write into that log group. So it need a put log events permission, and describe log streams. Describe is for listing out. Okay, so these are the 4 permissions, those are required as part of your role. Okay, and here we have the resources is, we said the resources is anything, okay, on any of the resources. It means from any of the EC2 you should be able to do these activities. Okay, so one of the prerequisite of this particular CloudWatch log is you should know IAM, because this particular video is not about teaching IAM, so I'll not go much deeper into this, what making you understand what is a policy, what is a role, and what is a IAM. So I'm assuming that you already have this knowledge before seeing this video. If not, there are other videos as well which you can go ahead and learn the IAM policies and the roles first, and then you can go ahead and try this lab as well. Okay, so now I'm assuming that you're already aware of these concepts. Okay, so I created these actions, and I'll say review policy, and I'll give a name, and I'll give a name called as CloudWatch. Let's call it as review policy is CloudWatch write policy, and I'll say create policy. Okay, so we created a policy. I'll come back to this particular window where we are creating a role. So I'll just refresh it, and I'll just type write, and we have our CloudWatch write policy. Correct? Can you see here? Yeah. And I'll say next review and give a role name called as EC2 CloudWatch. I'll call it as write role. Okay, and I'll say create role. So the role has been created, right? So as part of the prerequisite, what we did is we created a role, and to create a role we created a custom policy which has the 4 write permission to the CloudWatch. Correct? So now this is prerequisite is done. Now we will go ahead and do it on a running instance. The first thing that we will do is we will go to the, and let's use this agent 1 to do our RPM installation. To do that, first let's attach a role to this. So I'll just go down here, and I will show you that there is an IAM role right here. So currently it is blank. You do not have any IAM role attached to this. So at the first task, let's go ahead and attach a role. How do you attach a role? Click on that particular server, select that server, go to actions, instance settings, and you have something called as attach or replace an IAM role. So I just click on this. It will ask you which role to define, and we have this CloudWatch write rule. That is what we created, right? And I'll say apply. It has been applied. Now if I just click on this, select this server, and if I come down, scroll down, you'll see that IAM role, this has been attached, correct? So we are good with that. Now the second thing is we will take a public IP of this and let's log into that. Okay, to do the installation we have to log into that particular EC2. So let's try to log into this. Now to log into this, what is required? You require a putty session. Because I'm in a Windows, I cannot use the SSH command, so I will use a putty session for that. So I'm in my folder where putty is available. I'll just open up the putty and AWS, I'll just load it. I have already configured the auth with the ppk that I used to create that particular EC2. Again, if you don't understand this, one of the prerequisites is that you should know how to create an EC2 using this PEM file, and then from PEM how do you convert to an ppk. So okay, there is a separate video, please go and learn that. So as part of this particular demo, I'm not going to cover those things in detail. Okay, so I have already given a ppk. I'll just go back to session and I will load this, and I'll put the IP address. Okay, this is my Linux IP address. So it gives a security alert, that's fine. I'll just say yes, and I will say ec2-user. Okay, I am successfully able to log into this Linux, correct? Now let's elevate uh, the role, and now I became a root. Okay, now there is a command called as yum to install the RPM packages onto Amazon Linux machines, right? And the same commands works for CentOS and other Red Hat variant of Linux as well, right? So the first thing that I will do is I will update my yum repository. To do that, I have to execute a command yum update. So yum update will update the repository of all its packages that it knows. Okay, so the next time when I try to execute a command to install a package, it goes and searches in that repository. If you don't update your yum repository, then what happens? It probably failed to identify or get that file into the repository because it may be referring to the older repository. Okay, so we did that. Now the next thing that we need to do is yum install, and the name of the package is AWS logs. Yeah, and then is this okay? It is asking for a confirmation. I'll say yes. Then it is able to install. The installation is successful. Okay, so let me repeat what I have done. Let me just go back to the commands that I have executed. I did a yum update. I first elevated myself to a sudo, and then I did an yum update to update the repository, and then I did yum install AWS logs. When you do an update, AWS logs, it can see the AWS logs in its repository. Now I'm able to install that, and the installation is successfully completed. Right now, the first thing that I should do is I should go ahead and check the configuration of the log files. Right, so I'll say cd slash etc, then AWS logs, and if you look at, there are files here, right? One is AWS conf file and one is AWS logs.conf file, right? So let me cd and I'll say ls. So I'll just clear the screen and I'll say ls, and if you look at this, this is the first conf file. So let's me open that. I will say vi, I'll use the vi editor. Those who are not familiar with vi editor, they can use other nano editor and all. So I'm familiar with vi, so I'm comfortable with vi, so I'll go ahead with vi. And you can see one is a cw log file here, which we should not touch, and the second one is the region. By default, all the logs will be sent to US West East region. I do not want that to happen, right? I do not want that to happen, but I want all my logs from this EC2 to come to Mumbai region, because I have all my EC2s from Mumbai, right? So AP-south-1. So you can also do one thing. Maybe you can have a separate You can have all the EC2s from across all the regions can send the log files to a single single CloudWatch in a single region. Like you may be having in one some few in Mumbai, few in US, few in Singapore. All these EC2s can send the log files to a single region as well. You can also configure that, right? So currently, I'll go ahead with AP-south-1 and I will save this file. The next configuration that we need to look at is AWS. We have logs. I'll open this file. This is a file with a lot of documentation. That's why the file is little lengthier. Otherwise, it really hardly has any of the sentences which are open. The first one is this one, general. So we already looked at this general, right? So general is, it will tell you the state file where it is, and you can look at the comment path to the CloudWatch logs agent state file. The agent uses this file to maintain client side state across its execution. So what is the current state? It will check that, right? So this is one of the uncommented line, right? And this is mandatory, and remaining all are commented. So this is a with lot of help and everything. It will also explain you what does this date a means, a capital A means and all. So let's not go through all of them. Let's scroll down, and you can see there are some uncommented lines here, right? And these uncommented lines are one of the configuration that will by default AWS agent does to capture the files from this log messages folder, right? So can you see here? Yeah, so this is already done. Now what we will do, we'll just save it like that. Let's not modify anything, let's not do anything. And now let's check what happens, what is the state of the service. So this, I'll say AWS service logs, AWS logs status, it is currently stopped. Let's start it. Yes, it is started. Now if I look at the status, it is running perfectly, right? And now let's go back to AWS console. And what is the ID of it? 2E4. So we said that CloudWatch to identify this particular instance with its instance ID, right? That's what we specified, right? That's what you can see here. I'll just do cat here. So how do you want to specify the log stream name with the instance ID, right? So the instance ID is 2E4. Okay. Now I will go to the CloudWatch. The CloudWatch, how to open the CloudWatch? You can go to services. If the CloudWatch has already opened, it will be there in our history. Otherwise, you can type CloudWatch here. In the CloudWatch, I will go to log groups. In the log groups, I'll just scroll down and you will see there is something called as a group name called as where log message is created. And this is what we said, right? The log group name is where log messages. This is how we are creating. So where log messages has been created, right? So I'll just click on this. And now it will show you the different log streams. What is the log stream name? Your log stream name is your instance ID. So is it not 2E4? Is the same thing that we saw, right? 2E4, correct? So this is what it is. So it has created a log stream with that instance ID. I'll just click on it, and you will see all the different events that we are getting from these messages. So let me just cat here. You can see. So these are the messages that we had from DHM and then DH client and everything. The same thing that we are getting here, right? You can see here. Yeah. So this is how it works. So let's do one more thing. So what we will do, we will try to put one more log and we will see how it comes there. Okay. And let's see what we have. So I will go to /var folder. I will go to /log folder, and let me see if there are any logs here. Yes, there is one m.log, and let's open it and see m.log. Yes, we have certain messages, some installed and all, right? Okay, let's try to monitor this and send it to CloudWatch. So how do we do that? So first of all thing, we need to identify the path of it. right? So what is the path of this particular file is var log and m.log, correct? Okay, now so let's go back to slash var slash AWS logs, sorry, log, etc AWS logs, and open the file AWS logs via AWS logs. Scroll down and let's copy this, the entire thing, and I'll paste it. Now what we want to do, we will create another message where we will say, instead of messages, m.log. This is what we wanted, right? m.log. Then date format, I'll just keep it as is. I'll show you that. So I'll just go to CloudWatch. Can you see the date here? August 6th, and hours, minutes and seconds, right? This is what we mentioned here. Sorry, this is what you mentioned here, right? This is month of the day, sorry, this is a month of the year, day of the month, that is 0102, and then this is the timing, right? This is how it coming. So what file I want to monitor? I want to monitor m.log. I still want to keep it as instance ID, start of the file, and then name of the log group is, I will call it as m.log. It is not recommended to change the log group name. Let it be with the same name, because the application team will be knowing that they have to monitor this particular log file. They will be knowing that name of the log file, right? So it is not recommended that you change this log file. Okay, so I'll just save the file and let me restart the agent. I'll say service AWS logs restart. So stopped and started as well. Now if I come to the CloudWatch, I'll again click on the log groups, and this time what I should get var log m.log, and if I just open it and scroll down, you'll see the instance ID, right? And if I just click on it, you will see these are the logs that we currently have, right? So let's try to install something. Let me just cat var log m.log. So I have only these files, right? So let's try to install install, sorry, httpd -y, -y is for silent. I'm just installing an Apache package, and now if I do a cat of it, it shows installed httpd. Yes, okay. Now let's uninstall it, that is remove it. I'm just trying to generate some logs, that's it, okay, by doing some activities. Yes, and now again I'll clear the screen and I will use cat. Now you'll see that installed httpd package erased, uninstalled as well, right? Now ideally we should have these things in our CloudWatch as well. Now if I see, now the currently it is not refreshing, I just have to resume to refresh, or I can click on this refresh as well. If I say resume, it went ahead and fetched the thing. Can you see here? So on August this we installed an httpd, and on August this we clicked on erased as well, right? So this is perfectly running. Okay, now so that ends our first lab where we installed an agent and we did a configuration using an RPM. So the next step that we will do is, the next exercise that we will do is, we will go ahead and install using a Python package, okay, on this particular Linux machine. Okay, now to do that, what is the first thing that we have to do? Of course, you have to go to actions, settings, and IAM role. That does not change. Then I'll say write CloudWatch write, and I'll say apply, and I'll say close. So we applied that IAM role now, because the same IAM role will be used to write into the CloudWatch, right? So IAM role has been uploaded. Now I will take a remote session of this Linux machine and I will log into that. The same way we did that, just to avoid any confusion, let me just close the first putty session of the first Linux machine because we don't need any more now. Okay, so I'll just open the putty. I'll use the same method to load. My configuration is already saved, so that's why I can able to load it. Say yes, and then I'll say ec2-user, right? And now I will elevate myself to the root privileges. Now I'm in the same fashion. Now instead of doing a yum, this time what we are doing, we are installing the package using a Python installer, right? Okay, so where is the Python installer? Okay, so where is the Python installer? So AWS has kept the Python installer and the URL of that is in the notepad here. So you can see HTTPS, and they kept it in one of the S3, and then CloudWatch downloads latest. You can Google it as well. And I have already Googled it and have put it from the link here, and I'll say download. I'll download this. I'll do a curl. You might be aware that curl is a Linux based text browser, so I'll use the curl. So I'll just put it on this particular URL, and you'll see that this got downloaded. Now if I do an ls, you will see this file. Now the command to execute this py is Python, the name of the file, then you have to specify a region. So let's change the region here. We want to work in AP-south-1, right? And I said by default it will go to east region. So let's change that. And this is the command that we need to execute. I can skip sudo because I'm already in the sudo. So I'll just copy this command and paste it on my EC2 console. And now it starts installing. Yeah. Step 1 of this one, it is installed. Done. Step 2, downloading the latest CloudWatch Log agent bits. It is downloading that. It did. And now on the third step, it is asking configure an AWS CLI. Okay. Now, as I said, I explained earlier that there are two ways you can give an access to this log file to write logs to CloudWatch, right? The first way is you can configure, you can create an IAM user with access key and the secret key, provide a necessary permission to that, and you can provide that access key and secret key to this log agent, right? That's the one way of doing it. And the second way of doing it is IAM role. And whenever you are working at least between the AWS services, it's always recommended that you use IAM roles rather than the access key and the secret key. Otherwise, you have to hard code those access key and the secret key. So in our case, we have already created an IAM role and we have already attached to this EC2. So we don't need this access key and the secret key. So I will just put a enter. I'll go ahead with the blank access key and the secret key. Default region name, it has already taken AP-south1 because we had already given in that configuration. I'll just do that, and output format also none. So I did not give any access key and the secret key. However, I have already given an IAM role to this EC2, right? So if you want, I'll just show that as well. So you can see this. I have already given an IAM role, right? And this has a permission to write to the CloudWatch. Okay, so it says pass to the log file. Yes, this I mean the default it creates the log file messages, right? So it is asking these things. So I just continue the default configuration. Then it will say choose log stream name, whether you want to use the instance ID or the host name or the custom. So I will choose the instance ID. Then it will ask in what format I want. I want in the first format, right? This is what I wanted. So the date format, I'll go with this. Then you want to start of the file or end of the file. Let's say start of the file. Then more log fields to configure. If you want to configure those m.log and all, you can do that. Correct. We have already seen creating those m.log, so I won't go with that example again now. I'll just say n. So it is setting up an agent as a daemon. Yes, it has already done that, right? So everything is set up. Now let's say service AWS logs status, it is running. It is already running, correct? And now in this case, because of a Python, it must have installed it in AWS logs etc, and you'll see the files are here. Just note that now this time the configuration files are under where AWS logs and etc and not directly under etc. Okay, now if I just say ls, I have both the files. Let's cat and see what it has done. You can see it has created the var log file for us, and if I do cat AWS conf, and has mentioned the AWS source file, right? It has already done the configuration that we had done manually in the previous exercise, right? Okay. Now let's directly go to CloudWatch and go to log groups, and let's go to this var messages, and this time, yes, you should see two instances. One is this one which was 7e4, and the second one is this one which is 605, right? 605. And if I go here, you still see the log files, correct? So this is how you configure your log agent using a Python installer, right? So this ends the second method of installation of an agent. Now the third is, which is very common in nature, which is installing while launching. Let's take an example that this is an auto scaling group that is launching several EC2 instances depending on the load. Do you really log into each of these EC2 and go ahead and install this agent by method 1 or method 2? No, that is not an ideal scenario. The ideal scenario is that you go ahead and do it as part of the launching process itself, so that whenever the EC2s are getting launched and terminated, the configuration creates and terminates by itself, and that's how it is supposed to happen. So let's see that particular configuration now. Okay, so let's see this installation using an instance. So what I will do is, let's first look at what is required for you to do that. Okay, so have you heard of user data while creating an instance? And this is precisely what we use to do an agent installation during the launch process. So I have set of commands here. There are two activities that you have to do. The first activity is you have to specify the user data, and wherein you execute this Python package installation in the user data. The same Python package installation steps that we followed, okay, the same thing has to be done at a user data level. Okay, and where do you specify what configuration files or which log files to be monitored during this launch process? That you need to write it in an S3 bucket. Okay, so I have already kept it in one of my notepad. Let me just explain that. So in the AWS log, I'll just create simply a text file, okay, and I will create these two configurations as part of my AWS logs. I'll create these two configurations. One is, as I said, it's a general which is of a state file, and the second one is monitoring these var log messages. If I want m.log as well, I just copy paste it and create one more, right? Okay, and then as part of the user data, we will download the same steps that we did for our second option, second method. So download from this particular URL, then give a execution permission to that chmod, and then execute it with an option called as -c. -c helps you to specify where is your settings for your AWS logs configuration file. Okay, that is what you are doing, and we are specifying an S3 bucket name. This is a bucket name, S3 bucket name. You are specifying this is the file. Okay, so let me just go back to my AWS, go to S3 and show you this particular file. I have a folder, or I have a bucket called as test0503. I have already created, and there is a file called as the AWS logs.txt, and if I just open this file, it will has the same content that I showed it on the notepad, correct? Okay, so I'll just keep it like this, and I'll just close this unnecessary tab, so that otherwise it will get confused, right? So what I will do now, I'll go to EC2. Let's launch a new EC2 with this. Okay, so I'll say launch instance. I will go to Amazon Linux. I'll choose a T2 micro. Then I will choose an IAM role here. Okay, during the launch, this is where you have to specify an IAM role. I will specify our CloudWatch write, but this particular EC2 now also should read S3 to fetch this, right? So the permission that currently this IAM role has is not sufficient for this EC2 to go and fetch this S3 file. So what we need to do, we need to go to IAM. I'll open up another tab. I'll go to IAM, and I will open that particular role. The role is write. I'll open this, and let me give an S3 permission to this. S3 read only access. It should be good enough. And I will say it's already saved. So I have both the permissions. So let me repeat, guys, why I'm doing this. So last time, as you can see, this CloudWatch write role that we created has only permission to write into the CloudWatch log files, correct? Now, as part of this example, we also have to read the configuration file from S3. It means that EC2 should also have a permission to go and read the file from S3, and that is what we have given here, right? And now I'll come back to my process. It is already chosen IAM role, and if I scroll down, you have something called the user data. So in the interest of the time, I have already written it on my notepad, and I will copy paste it. So any user data on the Linux should start with bin bash, and it's the same curl command to download the AWS agent into the EC2, give a permission, execution permission, and execute this file. Okay, so let me just copy this and paste it on my user data. Okay, and then add storage, add tags. I will call it as CloudWatch agent, and I will give the number as 3. And I'll say security group. I already have a security group with a Linux named as Linux, and it has port number 443, 80, and 22 open. Anyway, we don't need 80 and 443, but since it is already there, let's continue with that. I'll review and launch, and I'll say launch, and I'll choose the key pair here. Again, as I said, this particular video is not to teach you how to create an EC2. I'm assuming that you already know the process. However, we also have other videos in our channel. You can go ahead and you can go ahead and watch that to learn how to create the EC2 with all the steps detailedly explained, and how to use this spam file. So I'll just say launch instance, and I'll go to this so that I can see the status of it. So this will take a while because it has to boot, and then it has to install all these packages. So what I will do is I'll pause this video for a minute, and once it is in an available state, once it's in a running state, I will continue with the video. So there we go, guys. It almost took 2 minutes now, 2.5 minutes, and now it is in a running state, as well as status check is 2 of 2 checks. So the first thing that we will do is we will check whether the user data that we had given is correct or no. So I'll go to instance settings, and let's see we've changed user data. Yes, the user data is already available, correct? Now let's see if that user data has successfully installed or executed during the launch of this instance, right? How do you check that? Go to instance settings, and there is something called as a get system log. So get system log will help you to identify or check all the logs right from its start of the booting process till it gets a login prompt. So let's click on that, and it is yet to generate. So currently I'm receiving the blank because it is yet to generate that log file and keep it here. So let's wait for a couple of more minutes, and then first we'll see the logs there, and then we will go and check the CloudWatch. So it's already probably around 4 minutes that we have waited. So let's go and check whether the log files are generated. I'm going to instance settings and I will go to get system logs. Yes, there we go. So we already have the system logs. You can see that from the first boot all the logs have been captured. I just scroll down, and you will see the login prompt here. And just before the login prompt, let's scroll a little up and you'll see, yeah, there is a step 1 of 5, initializing the PIP. There is a downloading the latest CloudWatch agent, and there is a setting up agent and a daemon. Wow, excellent. So it has configured the way we wanted this particular agent to be installed on that on this EC2, right? So you can see a configuration file successfully saved on this. Yes, it means the log file shows that the agent has been successfully installed, right? And it is up and running. Now let's go to CloudWatch, and I'll just refresh, and you will see the third EC2 is already there, 651, right? Let me just go back. So it's a 651. The instance ID is 651. So 651, if I just go inside, so there is a log files which are already receiving it from the EC2, right? Isn't it fantastic, guys? So let me just go back to my slide. So as part of this particular demo, so we learned what is a CloudWatch agent, what is the use case of using it, and then we learned the different files those are associated with the log agent, and then finally we learned about the different ways of installing the log agent onto the EC2 and how we configure them to collect the logs. Okay, so thanks guys, and hope this video was helpful to you to understand this CloudWatch log events. So please keep subscribe to our channel, and you will get to know a lot of such learning videos from our side. Okay, thank you once again, guys.